What is up, everybody? So, what I wanted to do today was start my walk talking about the explosion of COVID 19 or coronavirus cases here in Oneonta. Last night they were reporting 460, probably closer to 1,000. Nobody's sick, nobody's in the hospital. Yet, in a 10-minute video, we're going to walk by two of these quote unquote testing stations. Now, why should this be great news? Well, it should indicate this is over. The lockdown should be immediately canceled all throughout the country, especially here in New York State, because no one's sick. Let me repeat that. Nobody's sick. They have a COVID task force here where beginning Sunday night at midnight, they began calling students, scaring the shit out of them, telling them they had 10 minutes to pack up a bag, showing up in a full hazmat uniform, and then putting them in an isolation dorm, some of which didn't even have bedding, windows drawn, shades drawn, basically a dark room for 2 weeks. Most of these kids had no idea that that would be their fate coming here. Now, on top of that, a lot of the locals and the media community, they want to say, oh, well, look, they were partying. They didn't test them before they got here. You have no metric to see how many people were supposedly infected before they got here and after the quote unquote parties or after class started. The other thing that's really interesting to me is they've been here 3+ weeks. Now, these are destroying metric numbers that are put out by the establishment. They're saying, well, within 2 weeks, you can get affected. If that were the case, where are all the infections? Where are all the breakouts? If you don't think that, those kids going to Walmart with their parents for the first week plus, didn't have interactions with people, you don't think that they actually went to small businesses throughout Main Street? Of course they did. Of course they did. And they purposely didn't test them beforehand. Why? Because they probably would have had 200 to 1,000 students pop hot and they don't get that money, right? And then it gives them the convenient excuse after the fact to play into this ridiculous Cuomo agenda of lockdown, close your business, we'll tell you what to do, we're the boss. Summer's over. We're in September. Fall is here. And if you think that this ends at the end of fall and the beginning of winter, you're crazy. Not unless you push back right now. Not unless you get in these people's faces. From what I saw yesterday, the one testing facility was almost completely abandoned, okay? And we're going to walk by that one. We're approaching the Armory testing facility as we speak. But I want to repeat this, okay? It's very simple. There is nobody in the hospital. There are 460 cases. Now, the PCR test, the 15-minute rapid test, we know that it is super sensitive. And there's a good possibility that it is reading way too much of the virus. And they have such a hint of it, it is non-transmissible, AKA what? It looks like it could actually be herd immunity, especially in this community, because we're talking about a 0.66% infection rate in New York State as of a couple days ago, officially. Now, of course, with these numbers, they're saying it's 3%. So I'm going to flip the camera, and you got one guy out here LARPing, okay, out here on this this big brick building that we're approaching. Notice all these empty non-parking police order things. Take a good look. This is it. This is it. This is the LARP, okay? This is the hysteria. This is the nonsense. So this is one of the makeshift centers that they set up. Don't park here. Wow, it looks like there's so much demand for this. It looks like my community is being devastated. Oh, that's right, it doesn't. My community is not being devastated. And then these people that are so brainwashed that they want to believe that this is a good thing and these people should be here and all that. I point out, well, what would it take? Would it take 1,000 infections and no hospitalizations? Would it take 1,500 infections and no hospitalizations? When do we start talking about all the treatments that are already out there for people that aren't sick enough to go to the hospital? And then you get the standard bullshit. Oh, you just hate grandma, don't you? I mean, that's honestly put in my comment section. I said, You know how ridiculous that is. And by the way, if grandma was going to be affected, she would have been. Let me explain how this small town works. One of the largest college programs here is a nursing program because we have hospitals here, okay? And because of that, you get a lot of overlap between the nightlife, bartenders, and nurses. And I can tell you right now that one of the main bartenders in town, in one of the few bars that reopened on any level, guess where she works? The nursing home, okay? She's constantly exposed to people. They're constantly exposed to people. And yet, the real tragedy about these nursing homes is not that they're having a huge outbreak or that people are dying in them. It's that 6 months later, you still can't go visit your mother or father, your grandmother, your grandfather at these places. And if that's not criminal, I don't know what is. Now, because, you know, again, we're 6 months into this, we're the new hotspot, and yet nobody in these facilities is dying. You know what they are doing? They're crying at windows because they don't understand why they can't see their families. Yeah, that's real. So you tell me. And again, take a good look at this small town. We're about to approach the next facility. And that's the thing. These facilities in my small little area, that you needed 3 of them, that one was completely empty. That one was completely empty. And if you saw it, while I was walking by, what happened? A woman with a paper mask walked out. This thing is so deadly. Why in the world are we having people come in to test? By the way, when we're in New York State, when they can't come to vote, but they can come to test, right? And then that woman wasn't in any kind of hazmat gear. She's in a paper mask. It's LARPing. We're in a LARP fest, okay? I want to reiterate this again. This entire operation of lockdowns in this country needs to be shut down immediately. You need to push back if this does not prove to you that it's not as deadly as they said, especially right now. 2, there are treatments. If there were not treatments for these things, okay, and people were worried about their sons and daughters dying of this in an ISO dorm, parents would immediately come and get them, okay? That's the only way they're allowed out, is if, and by the way, they've quarantined the entire college up there. So yes, there's isolation dorms, sure, but the real deal is that everybody's locked down up there for 2 weeks. None of the facilities are open. You know, I watched a video who's going for percussion here. You know, there's a big music program. He's like, I have no access to my drum sets. I'm paying all this money. I'm locked in a room, and I have a little model of a beating stick, something you'd see like in a rock band or something. And not even more than one thing, not even like a little rock band setup. So this is devastating. But again, they did it on purpose. They knew these kids would pop hot. Blaming partying is ridiculous. I want to say this again. I've been in crowds of thousands of people since this. There was no outbreak in Iowa, in Illinois, in the Quad Cities after Militech None. I filmed it. You guys saw it live. 3,000 plus people up against one another, no outbreak. There has been no outbreak, no deadly outbreak from all of these protests. Not one. They've been going on for months, okay? Proving it wrong again. There was no outbreak after the Chainsmokers concert, but there is LARPing, okay? So this is the other facility here, and as you can see, it's pretty abandoned. I'm looking inside. It's almost completely abandoned. Looks like there's like 5 or 6 people in a ambulance here on check. For shame. For shame putting this fear on my community. For shame. So again, in like a 2-block radius, we have these testing facilities for the community. The community has now been conditioned to want to blame the kids for having parties or whatever. Listen, they were living in dorms together on a campus. They were still going to some of the colleges. They're 18 to 24-year-olds. Of course, they're going to congregate with one another. Can we please just stop lying to ourselves? Can we please stop acting like reality does not exist and that we can just say and believe whatever we want based on zero evidence? Because the evidence is clearly showing. Look, today, I expect the number to jump to 600, 700. It would not be out of the realm that 1,000 people in my community test positive for this. So again, if there's 1,000 people and nobody's in the hospital, why are we locking down? Why are we locking down? Why are we locking down? 2 facilities almost completely empty. Again, no real protocol in there. No more protocol than if you went to go get a slice of pizza or a burger at a restaurant. That's the joke, guys. And it's a sick one. So I'll be back here later on. Make sure to thumbs the video up, subscribe, and share. Remember, I need your help more now than ever, as I did get my place in Iowa. So, I mean, I'm not lying. I'm writing a check that's gonna pretty much wipe me, and getting ready for October 1st out of New York State, because this is just too much. The LARP here needs to end, and honestly, we need people to stand up here in New York State now more than ever. Thumbs the video up on the way out. The GoFundMe link is down below. Thank you, guys. I'll see you on the flip.